Hello guys, once again it's Matt, and today we have another video. Thank you my members, Invictus, Crazy Blue Cuts, and our patrons Interceptor, Richardson, Danny Cage, and Rupert. Thank you guys, it helps a lot. It helps me make this as a full job, and it does help a lot. Thank you all the members, all the patrons, you all matter a lot for me, and yeah, let's get into it. So subscribe, and yeah, we are going to talk a little bit about the F-14A today. So we have the F-14A in the game right now. But it is early, you know, it's the early block or the early variant. As you know, in real life, we don't have these kind of things. We have blocks, we have marks, we have internal names, like the MiG-29 has the 912. In the British, we have the Mark 5, Mark 10, Mark 11, I don't know. And the Americans have the blocks, okay? We have it's called an early because it is literally the first F-14A to be ever put it into service. We even have the F-14A VF1 and VF2 camouflages or skins, you know, in the game, which is, I mean, it's the first squadrons that used the F-14A. So, as you know, it is very, very early, a very, very early version of the F-14A, okay? With that, with the early name, normally we kind of consider that in the future we will have a late block, so that's what I want to talk about it today. So the F-14A early that we have in game right now, it is technically a block 60 or 65, I don't know. It's, I think, because I can't confirm the exact block that the VF1 and VF2 used. But yeah, the idea of the video is to show what a late variant would look like in the game. So between the block 70 to the block 140, since the block 145 starts with the Bs. So we have the blocks, so the block 75, 70, 75, 80, 85, so on and so on until 140. And this production line was built between 1974, 75 until 1985, 86. So it's like 10, 11, 12 years of production of these mass production F-14As. With that, obviously, they would make different modifications along the life of the aircraft because they find new problems and the engineers see the problem, and the Air Force or the Navy in this case ask for a different modification for that, and the engineers got into it, and then they modified the aircraft, and etc. etc. There are some reliability problems, there are some problems with the engines that at start it was kind of detuned engine, and along the years they were more fine-tuned to more power. So many things were done to the aircraft. So technically there isn't an F-14A late, you know, it is, we have the A's with many blocks, and then the B's with many blocks, and the D's, right? But since they are not using this block method of just showing what version it is, they are using the early and late kind of situation with the A-10s and many aircraft. The F-14A early could be the first one, and then an F-14A late could be the second F-14 before an F-14B, before an F-18A, or something like that, you know? So let's talk a little bit about the F-14A with its later modifications. In my opinion, we can see the latest block, even if they want to, of the A, which is the 140, or at least a 1982 onwards version. Because of the armament that we're going to talk about it later. So yeah, something along those lines. So 80s version of the F-14A before the B, or before the A+, because initially the B was called an A+. So that we can see more advanced weaponry and some different types of things on the aircraft itself. Because technically, because of all these things that I'm going to talk about, it becomes a new aircraft, right? So yeah. The Block 70 initially had an IRST, but this was kind of unreliable, and they changed it to the other blocks onwards to a TCS system, the ALQ-100, which is a TV system that makes you identify some targets or some aircraft far away, up to 97 kilometers even in some larger targets like bombers and stuff. It helped sometimes identify if it's a friend or foe or something kind of in that situation. Remember, in the Vietnam era, they had the first type of you know, IFF systems and stuff like that to identify, and they had the doctrine of just identifying them with visual cues, you know, then to actually shoot the missile. So that would help a little bit, right? And if the aircraft is hot and cold as well, something like that. It's similar to any TV system like what we already have in game, but it's just a very, very powerful zoom to see aircraft and aircraft types. So if it sees that's an MiG-21, probably it's an enemy, right? If it sees an F-5, it's probably a friendly. So that way you can identify it. So this ALQ-100 system was basically used in all the blocks past the 70 block. Even the 60 and 65, I think they were retrofitted with it. So this could be one of the things. We can have a little screen on the side of the radar where you lock somebody and then he zooms it out and you can control the zoom or something like that. Or maybe even changing the camera as a normal TV camera that you can lock on somebody or something like that. But it needs to be slave to the radar if you can, because that was a real life thing. And it can be used also, if I'm not mistaken, to slave some missiles that have the SAM. So the AIM-9H, the AIM-9L, AIM-9M. So yeah, pretty interesting. Obviously, these were the first missiles that they ever used, but in the F-14, but still. Also, it had a different kind of design in the glow veins. So the glow veins were those triangular things that were shaped basically to limit the tuck under effect on max speeds, of the aircraft in early F-14s. But eventually this was removed in any of the blocks, and it also had a TF30 P414A engine instead of the 412A that we have in game right now. So it might have more power. I couldn't confirm it, but probably it does have more power and more reliability, just because initially the TF30s, they were kind of detuned to improve the safety limits of the aircraft and stuff like that, and they improved that, the power, increasing the power after the service life of the aircraft got some more years into it. So yeah, and also some other minor differences between early and later blocks were some different avionics and other minor things like AOA measurements and stuff like that, new RWRs and stuff like that. But these are the changes for the aircraft. So we can have an F-14A Early that we have in game, and a late variant with the TCS ALQ-100 system, the TV system, together with a better engine, a little bit of a better engine, not too much, and also the glow veins removed, so less weight a little bit, and less drag depending on the situation as well, and a new RWR and stuff like that. These would be the changes for the aircraft itself. Let's talk about the armament, because the armament itself is the main thing about what I wanted to talk about. First, the AIM-54, which is the main armament of the F-14. So in real life, we have three types of AIM-54s, apparently. So we have the A Mark 47, which is just a normal one, 27 seconds of burn time and 14.5 kilonewtons of thrust. Then we have the A Mark 60 with the Mark 60 engine, normal one as well, but with the Mark 60 engine, 30 seconds of burn time, 17 kilonewtons of thrust. And in the 80s, we got the C variant, the Mark 47 version of the C, with the Mark 47 engine, but a different Mark 47. It had an improved digital solid-state electronic systems and a different engine. So it had 15.7 kilonewtons of thrust and 27 seconds of burn time. So a mix between the Mark 47A and the Mark 60A. Also has a smokeless engine, which has less smoke, so it was less visible. These were the three variants that I could find that were massively produced. In game, we have the AIM-54A Mark 60, so it's already the better A. Okay, we already have the Mark 60 with the 30 seconds of burn time and 17 kilonewtons of thrust. So it's already the better version. Okay, so if a C is added, it will technically track better, and it will be a little bit harder to evade, in theory at least, but it will have less range than the Mark 60A. The minor difference, a minor difference in thrust, but still it's a difference. The A in-game would still have a longer range. They would turn the same, the A that we have in-game in the C, so 16 Gs or 18 Gs, but it would track better the C, so it might be a little bit better to use the C in smaller maps, and the A's that we have in game, the Mark 60, in longer range engagements. It's fun because the person that is flying can choose between a better version for shorter range and a longer range version that has less like seeker guidance kind of performance, right? As I said, we have the Mark 60 already, so there's no reason why to add the A Mark 47. Just add the Mark 60 and then add the C for this late variant for the person that it's flying to know. Obviously, the smokeless engine helps a lot as well. It will be kind of a stealth missile, but not really. You can still see the smoke, but it's just less smoke. In game, of course, we have the Sparrows as well. But in gaming and in real life, initially the F-14A Early used the AIM-7E4, which was basically an E2, but to be mounted on the F-14 that we already have in game. After 1977, they started using the AIM-7F that we have in game as well. But then in 1982, so in later models, so this late F-14 would be able to use the AIM-7M. So the AIM-7M would be the same in energy as the F. It has the same motor and aerodynamics, but it would be able to turn better, so up to 30 Gs due to a new seeker having an inversed monopulse seeker similar to the Skyflash, the R-24, R-27. In the sense of range, etc., it will be the same as the F, but still has the same 40 kilometers of seeker range. So I don't know if you had any INS data link system like the R-27R to be able to be shot from further away than that, but it probably has something like that. The range, turn, seeker, the range of the missile, the turn capabilities, and the seeker type is the same as the R-27. So they counter each other in a very good way, you know. So the R-27, the AIM-7M. So if the R-27 is added, the AIM-7M has to be added as well. The AIM-7F will be a little bit worse than that. Doesn't change much, as I said. The difference between the F and the M are the 30 Gs and this better seeker, so better tracking. That's the main thing, at least initially. Obviously, there are some other versions later of the M, but still. And then, last but not least, the AIM-9. Of course, it is another version, another missile that can have another version. Obviously, the first option is the AIM-9L. The L is going to be the first missile similar to the MiG-29s and Su-27s having the R-60M. If the R-73 is added, is ever added, they can add the AIM-9M, which is the same as the L, but it had a better IRCCM, so it would be less susceptible to flares and background noise of light than the L, which already basically because the L already has an initial kind of system like that in game. Remember, the R60M, the AIM-9L, and the MatAWG 2 all have an initial type of IRCCM in game right now and in real life as well. And it also has a smokeless engine, so it would be less susceptible to flares, and it would have a smokeless engine, making it less visible. Remember also, again, that this is not no smoke. It is just less smoke. It is still visible, but it is just harder to see. In game, this can be added as one or two things. As a reduced spotting distance for the chevron, the red chevron for the missile, or a reduced color, so for example, a grayish color instead of the bright red of the normal missiles. So if the missile is a smokeless one, it will have a gray chevron. If it is a normal one, it will have a red chevron. That can be a little bit, or a grayish kind of a fading kind of thing, so it's harder to see, you know, something like that. Or even a distance, just that the missile needs to be closer to you be able to see the missile, and with that, it will be more deadly. It will be the same turning as the AIM-9L, so around 30 to 35 Gs. More modern versions of the M can be added later, like the M8 and the M9 versions, but those are from the 90s, so they will not be added right now. They can reach up to 40 to 45 Gs in turning and better IRCCM and better seeker, anything like that. But the normal 9M will suffice for now, early 80s version, and I think it will be kind of worse than the R-73 in turning, but it will have more range probably and will be kinda stealthy. As I said, kinda stealthy, not really that stealthy, you know. But these are the differences between what can be an F-14A early and an F-14A late. So some minor differences in the aircraft itself, but the main differences would be in the armament. New AIM-54s and new AIM-7s, and new AIM-9s. I don't think these aircraft should be added right now. Okay, I think we need proper counters to the F-14 at least. We need to see something like the F-16 first, maybe earlier variants of the F-15, and maybe then we can add an F-14 late. Maybe then after that, once we have already Su-27s and others, we can have the F-14B, which would be way more powerful in the performance department, but it would use the same armament as the A late. So it would be kind of a early variant, you know, with the early missiles from the 70s, then a late variant with the missiles from the 80s and some modifications, and then the B variants having amazing performance of the engine and having the same missiles as the late variant of the A, and then a D variant in the far, far, far future with more advanced weaponry, with more performance, with more everything. More radar, everything, you know? So that can be added, I think 4 F-14s in total. For now, the early is it's enough. And in the short future, once we get some counters to it, we can see the A late as well. It would be very, very cool to see these missiles. And remember, most of these missiles, they need to be added if the counters are added, like the R-27, like the R-73, and etc. Even a MiG-31, if it's added with the R-33, I mean, we should get better Phoenixes, right? So yeah, but this is just for the future. Let me know in the comments what you think about this division of having an F-14A early and a late variant, since they don't use the block variants. Remember, these blocks would be like 100 block or 120, something like that. So beyond 1982, basically, to have the 7M and have the 9M as well. But yeah, it will be very, very cool to see that. I hope you enjoyed, and I see you guys on the next one. Let me know in the comments what you think about the F-14A late. See you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.